As we have discussed from time to time, the Anu are a race of extraterrestrial beings that came to your world hundreds of thousands of years ago. And without going too much more deeply into the story than what we have already imparted to you, suffice to say, the Anu, or as many of you refer to them in ancient text as the Anunnaki, were responsible for infusing their genetic material into the naturally evolved hominid species on your planet that you often refer to as Homo erectus and various similar types of early human form. And with the infusion of their DNA into Homo erectus, thus created what you now consider yourselves to be as Homo sapien, human. Now, the second word, Vikwadesh, is a reference to this early hominid form, Homo erectus as you call it. In the ancient tongue, Vikwa means seed. Desh means template. So it is the seed template that was used to create Homo sapien. The initial manifestation in the ancient tongue, Adama, again translated in some of your stories as the idea of Adam. The idea then, as related metaphorically in some of your early literature, your religious literature, your early scrolls and texts, the idea of the creation of the female form by the utilization of the early male form of Adama to create the female representation of the Eva, or Eva, or Eve. The idea being that this represents, no offense, gentlemen, but the Eva represents the first hybridization upgrade of the human form. I know that many of the females in the audience are pleased to hear this. Therefore, with the Adama and the Eva, you then had the basic idea of the male and female human forms. It does not mean that there were not female forms in the Vikwadesh, in the Homo erectus. Just that the way in which the female Homo sapien was created by the Anu utilized the initial template of the Adama to make sure that it would be, as you say in your language, a hybridization upgrade. Now, once that existed, once the human forms existed in what you recognize as your present male and female forms, and the human race began to flourish and replicate and spread, remember that we have told you the story of another parallel Earth reality that destroyed their world, and that the humans on that world became mutated into the form you call the Greys. And because they had mutated in such a way, hybridized themselves in such a way to be able to survive on their destroyed version of Earth, they were no longer able to reproduce. And they knew that they would die out if they did not seek out somehow, somewhere, a viable source of still existing human DNA. They used their advanced technology, as we have told you before, to tunnel into various parallel reality versions of Earth, including yours, to find viable human DNA, to infuse with themselves to create hybrid civilizations that would allow their culture to continue and not die out. But the idea of the early Grey, in a sense, because it was something that was created that changed them into a form that could adapt to their dying world, in a sense, is the first hybrid race. The Greys in the ancient tongue are the Maz-eh. The Maz-eh are what came into your parallel reality and began the hybridization agenda. So the Maz-eh, the Greys, formed the first hybrid race. The first hybridization level or phase that followed the Maz-e, or gray beings, is what we call the Mazani. These are what many people in these encounters have recognized as the tall grays. So they are the next stage of hybridization from the grays that began to incorporate human DNA and allowed them to begin to change to something a little bit closer to resembling the idea of a hybrid that could continue their species. But it still was not sufficient for a number of reasons. But they were the second hybrid race and, in a sense, phase one of the hybridization agenda. After that came our civilization, the Sathani. So we are the third hybrid race. We are representative of a 50-50 balance between the grays, the Maz-e, and the humans on your world and other worlds like yours. We are physically and representationally halfway between the grays and what you consider yourselves to be as Homo sapien. We are here, as you can see, to share information with you because we are family, we are genetically connected. You are in many ways our ancestors, and we are your descendants, and we will get to that point a little bit more deeply in a moment. The next phase is what was called the Shah-Yael. This is something that is a little bit more human in appearance, but still containing various aspects of what you consider to be hybrid beings. They still have much larger eyes than you. They are relatively slender like us, but a little bit more toward the human form that you are familiar with. Now, the Shah-Yael, the fourth hybrid race, act in many ways as guides for the fifth hybrid race, the Yael, who are much more human-like, and that's why they are going to be the first hybrid species of the 5 hybrid races that would have open contact with your civilization. They look more or less human. They may still exhibit a few of the ideas of hybrid traits that would make them a little bit different than what you consider a normal or natural human to look like. But nevertheless, the fourth hybrid race, the Shah-Yael, will act, in a sense, as guides and organizers to help with the agenda of acclimatization for the Yael to be able to interact with your world when open contact begins. So they are working very closely together that way. What follows the Yael is what has been termed the Shah-Lanaya, which in the ancient tongue is the first ones. The first ones being what you typically refer to as the hybrid children that live on the ships that will ultimately be returned to Earth to live among you and begin the process of allowing Earth to blend into and evolve into the sixth hybrid race eventually. This is what we refer to as the next word in the list, the Enani-Ka. Now, we have initially told you that our ancient word for earth is Inani, which basically means the ancestors, but more specifically, it was in its ancient form more Nadea, Enanika, which means the place of the ancient mothers. Again, that's a more literal translation, which has now been condensed over time simply into Ananika, which is the ancestor spirits. But in this case, spirit, not only representing the idea by the word ka of what you consider normal spirit to be, but also the idea of essence. And in this case, a literal reference to DNA. So it is the idea of the ancestor DNA and that which will allow there to be a blending, a harmonization, and a continuing of evolution for Earth to become the sixth hybrid race. Now, we have previously also told you that there would be ultimately a seventh hybrid race that would be a blending of all the other 6. This will be a new type of being that will represent a very different way of existing in physical reality that will exhibit many traits of spirits and other dimensions, will have an interesting expression of power and passion and peace, that will explore and unify many different star systems, many different galaxies in time. So Earth is forming the last foundational component for the seventh hybrid race, which on the list is referred to as Het, or Anu Het, which means they are the conclusion of the cycle, the grand cycle that was begun by the Anunnaki and ends with the Anu Het, and brings forth a new species, as we said, of power, passion, and peace. Now, this all goes toward the understanding of the real transformation that's taking place on your planet. This entire cycle is really what the transformation is all about. This upgrade, this uplift, this ascension into new forms, new expressions of great power and passion and peace and benefit and creativity and unconditional love that can ignite a new wave of experience and a new series of civilizations within your star system, other star systems, and the galaxy and other galaxies. This is the beginning of a new cycle with the Anu Het, a new form of the Anunnaki for a different purpose of expanding creation in a new and unique way, in a much broader way, in a much more expanded way. And this then brings us to be capable this day of explaining to you that in terms of our gifts of sharing information with you, this is the true gift that we bring you. Because by being able to share with you all of these different principles and help you understand the nature and structure of existence in the form that we have expressed it as a type of instruction manual and tool kit that allows you to more easily apply these principles in your physical reality and make the kinds of positive and powerful changes that you wish to make in your lives. The real gift is that because we noticed that your planet was heading down the same path as the alternate Earth that destroyed themselves and turned into the Greys, the Maz-E, the real gift is that in giving you this information, which the other world did not have, the other Earth did not have, with this information, you get to skip all the intervening phases, the Maz-E, the Maz-Ani, the Sasani version of yourselves, the Shayayel, the Yayayel, the Shalanaya. You get to go straight from the idea of being human into being Enani-Ka, the uplifted version of yourselves, skipping over literally thousands of years of necessary evolution. That's the gift that we're actually giving to you by sharing this information with you. To highly accelerate your ability to become the sixth hybrid race without going through what that alternate version of Earth went through in creating or needing to create all those different phases to bring themselves back into balance, back into center. You can skip all of that by applying the information we share with you. That is our gift to you. So, this is, as we have said, the general window of open contact will be sometime, as we read the energy now, between your years of 2025 and 2033. And toward the ending of that window, you will find there will be a high degree of acceleration in the comings and goings of extraterrestrial beings. As we have said, you will be given more information about your true history on Earth, all the way back to Lemurian times, even further back, when there were other civilizations on your planet that you know absolutely nothing about. And from Lemurian into Atlantean times, into Egyptian times, into the idea of what you now consider to be your modern history, many, many bits of information that have been lost to you will be brought back to you by those who have observed your planet for eons and know exactly the history that you have all forgotten. And bringing back that history and changing those history books will allow you to really open up to a bigger understanding of your place in galactic history and how you fit in vibrationally to the idea of creation and what it is you have chosen for yourselves to perpetuate, what it is you have chosen for yourselves to experience, what parts you are playing in this galactic play that you may have forgotten that you chose to play. And as you go through that awakening and begin to experience technological marvels on your planet and begin to move out into the stars, as we have said, you yourselves will then begin to interact with other civilizations that don't know about a lot of these things, and you will become their mentors. You will become their guides. You will get the practice of interacting with other civilizations in a way of having first contact with them in the same way that we have first contact with you and other civilizations. You will become their UFOs. And they will look up into the sky and see your ships, and they will have their discussions and their dialogues about their relationship to you and their relationship to the stars, and you will guide them along this path as we are guiding you, and others came before you, and others came before us. And you will take your place in that.
So can you tell us more about the mantis beings?
They are the overseers of the hybridization program. Because the Greys, at one point, decided that they had to give up their emotionality and become a hive mentality in order to accomplish the task, because it was so large. They knew they needed someone to guide them. And so, in a sense, the mantis beings were, well, I'll use your word, hired to guide them. So the mantis beings are the overseers of the hybridization program.
I see.
They had to give up their emotionality to reclaim their emotionality in the hybrids.
And how are they assisting humanity with that project?
Am I assisting you?
Yes.
Then you know.
Perfect. Thank you.
Because my civilization is one of the hybrid civilizations that resulted from the hybridization agenda.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you.
We are helping to make sure, of course it's your choice, you do not go down the same path that the Greys went down when they were humans on a parallel Earth where they destroyed their reality.
Got it.
Remember that the Greys are mutated humans. They're not aliens.
Can you give us, I guess, a step-by-step example of what the process might look like of actually becoming, I guess, a caretaker of a hybrid child from when we first meet them to everyday interaction?
At first, these sanctuaries will be somewhat isolated, and only a few humans will be allowed to interact according to the hybrid children's agenda as to what they feel comfortable or important in terms of the way that they should interact with humans at that time. Humans will synchronistically be attracted in small numbers to these sanctuaries, and over time the numbers will grow as humans and hybrids become more comfortable and familiar with one another.
Hybrid children genetically and physiologically equipped to procreate with each other and humans so they can continue to develop newer species from that procreation.
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay. And I also had a question about what they...
One moment. One of the children said, "Is he asking about our sex life?" And I said, "Yes, he is." And they said, "Okay." Do continue.
So I've heard that what the hybrid children consume is like basically raw organic fruit juices or vegetable juices.
For the most part, yes.
And from my understanding, these foods have high biophotonic resonance, yes. And that is what is basically charging their cellular regeneration.
Also, the electromagnetic field, which helps amplify those things within the natural ingredients, yes.
Okay, and isn't it important for individuals like ones that are here to also consume things like that for their own cellular harmonization?
Depends upon the individual. Sometimes they may need other things depending upon their process and their path. In general, though, overall, your species is lightening up and therefore losing the urge to consume things that are of a denser vibration. So eventually, yes. But it doesn't mean you have to force yourself to do that if it's not really comfortable for you yet.
What are the lives of the hybrid children on the ships? Like, how do they spend their day?
Well, they do many different kinds of things. Of course, they are in instruction because, again, they are being taught many different things, not only of your world, but of many other worlds. They are being taught about the universe, but they also play. They also invent their own games. They also interact with many different kinds of beings. They also do their own explorations. They visit other worlds from time to time. They sometimes, again, when appropriate, may spend a little time on your planet, brief periods of time to help them acclimate, but they're not confined to the ships by any means.
Well, how do they get from location to location?
Again, they may be taken on ships.
Okay.
Sometimes they also go through what you would recognize as simulations of other worlds.
So when are the children coming to the planet? Can you reiterate that
again? The strongest window is toward the end of the open contact window, closer to the year of 2033. Okay. But this is not definitive yet, because there are many things that yet need to happen on your planet to determine the exact timing.
So you know how in the abduction phenomenon, people are in a dream state, they seem to go through some sort of physiological translation to be able to go on the ship.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is that similar to how the hybrid children might drop in periodically and then leave, or is that even happening?
Yes, although their vibrational state contains within it the potential to shift to your vibration a little bit more readily.
And so it's more like a lucid dream reality?
No, it's more solid than that.
It's more solid than that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, but they have popped in periodically?
Some of them have, and some of them have literally spent time on your planet in those dwellings that are set aside for them to practice living among you. They will, in a sense, play house. Do you understand?
Yes.
They will do many of the things that you do to see how they relate to those things and how they can get used to those things, and then they will make up their own minds as to what is relevant for them to participate in. So when they do join you, you will find that some of them may do some of the same things that you do, and some of them may not do many of those things. You may find hybrid children will simply never watch a TV show with you. You may find that a hybrid child may never eat with you. And some of them will want to eat with you all the time. Some of them will really want to investigate the idea of those TV shows. It depends on the child. It depends on what it is they believe they are getting out of it, what they are learning. So it will take some getting used to on both sides. But they will have their own attractions. They will know what path they need to walk, and it will be a journey that you can all take together that will be very instructional in both directions and will open you up to more understandings and more perspectives of things as you open them up to more understandings and perspectives of things.
It seems like they are growing up in a group setting where they are all with other children, lots of other children, more of a communal
more often
kind
than not,
of environment.
but again, they are sometimes left to their own devices to learn how to function as an individual.
As far as when the hybrid children do come here,
yes.
Are any of these entities, any of these other life forms on our planet going to step up and be teachers to them? Because maybe I have the wrong impression, but I see entities such as the nature spirits and
yes.
That they would, in a way, because they are ancient energy forms, that they might actually come forward and be teachers to the hybrid children.
Yes, this is why it's expressed in the idea that is the story that was created about Willa Chrissing, where the idea of future hybrids constantly interact with nature spirits in different forms. They can perceive them. They have the senses to perceive them, and the nature spirits understand that and present themselves to them. And there can be an exchange of information. It's not just about the nature spirits teaching the hybrids. the hybrids have things to share with the nature spirits as well.
So I think the last thing I wanted to ask about was the sixth hybrid race.
Yes.
Since this planet is so filled with so much life, is there something from all spectrums of life, like the nature spirits and the whales and the dolphins? Are they also a part of the sixth hybrid race?
Well, in a sense, we are being general and specific when we say that, because we're actually talking about the evolution of what you consider to be humanity when we talk about the sixth hybrid race. But again, remember, you're shifting to different versions of Earth in which that already exists and in which all the life on that version of Earth plays a part in harmony with the concept of the evolutionary progression.
For women who have had abortions,
Yes.
are there sometimes hybrid children involved in that?
Sometimes. Usually they will be taken out before that will happen.
So it's not like they're removed energetically at one
They are
level.
removed physically.
And
So in other words, a woman who may find herself unexpectedly pregnant may then suddenly find herself unexpectedly not, because the child has been removed and taken to the ship.
you know, yes, I guess I have heard those scenarios before. It just, one thing that comes to me is there was a movie that was from the 50s, and it was called Children of Village of the Damned.
We understand the context.
And was that like a fear-based, what is this? Why
it was a
was
fear-based
that?
interpretation of someone who actually tapped into the fact that you do have hybrid children. It's just that they then couched it in terms of your 1950s horror movie.
And so probably a lot of people who are hybrid mothers actually saw that when they were children.
Yes.
So it was just part of the process of getting over our fear of these children that are more advanced than us, that seemingly telepathic.
Yes.
And hopefully they won't be mean, right?
They will not. They will not have glowing eyes, and they will not be mean little children. No. That was, again, just the interpretation of the times.
Okay, because it seems like it is reflecting some of the things that humans may have concerns about, with the children, because they're more advanced.
But this is why the program is going at the pace that it's going, so that there is acclimatization, so that you can get used to each other, so that you understand there is nothing to be afraid of, so that you understand that these are your children, they are your family, and you are theirs. And you will have a very different interpretation and a very different experience now in what you call your 21st century.
I started to see like these three beings. They were kind of transparent, and they had like, the big eyes and the big head. But once that happened, I became so fearful, it just completely stopped.
Yes, but you can get used to this knowing that it's your choice too to experience this, because you're part of the agenda that allows you to know that you exist between two worlds.
Yes. Yes. And afterwards, I just started to see a lot of vibrant colors. I started to do things I never thought I could again.
Yes, you'd been upgraded vibrationally. You'd been aligned vibrationally.
So I was wondering, like, who these beings were. What kind of connection do I have with them?
Do you understand the hybridization agenda?
Sort of, yes.
All right. Well, they were quasi-gray beings, but in a slightly altered state, in between your reality and theirs, which is where they brought you. As we often say, many of these encounters happen in a slightly altered vibrational reality other than what you consider to be your physical reality. It still has traits of physicalness, but it's not your particular dimension. Many people are brought there because it's easier to help align people vibrationally in that particular state. So they understood that you needed some alignment. They were willing to help with that because you're part and parcel of their particular project as well.
Okay. So would that mean I would have hybrid children?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is there a way I could connect with them more?
Yes. Use your imagination. When you think of the idea of hybrid children, how do you feel?
Nurturing.
All right. Then anytime you go into a meditative state and allow yourself to express that nurturing energy, that can form a stronger connection for you to any of them.
Many of us are taught on this planet that we're here by mistake and that we need our time here to correct that error. Who in his right mind would choose to leave heaven or the awareness of God's perfect love to experience separation?
Well, similar to what we just said, first of all, you're not here by mistake, you're here by choice. The idea, again, is that you can experience separation to have a greater appreciation of connection. There are, again, any number of reasons why you might choose to forget who you are. One of them primarily being that it gives you the opportunity to remember who you are, but from a new point of view. Remember, in a timeless, changeless state, you don't grow, you don't learn anything new. But when you forget who you are and go through a process of discovering who you are, you come at it from a new perspective, and it's the new perspectives that actually help you expand and grow. So when you say you think you're perfect in the non-physical state, well, you are what you are in any state, and you are perfectly that thing. But you don't necessarily grow when things are timeless and changeless. So growth, expansion, is one of the primary experiences of all that is knowing itself in all the ways that it possibly can. Otherwise, it just becomes a static thing that has no reason for being.
And is the ego necessary? There's been a lot of different viewpoints of like eliminating the ego, and etc.
Yes, we are laughing at that statement.
I know, because you can't be here and experience this without an ego.
The ego is simply the physical personality that allows you the opportunity to experience yourself as a physical being. That's all it is. As we have used the analogy, it's like a diving mask. You decide to go diving in the ocean. If you want to see clearly under the ocean instead of being murky about it, you need a diving mask that gives you clear vision. That's all the ego is. Now, you can let go and not experience the negative ego, but you can't let go of the ego as long as you are physical.
So it's really a distinction between negative and positive ego, right?
Yes, the positive ego just has one function, to allow you to experience physical reality as clearly as possible. It's just the structure you call the physical mind that allows you to know yourself as a physical being. The negative ego is what happens when you give the positive ego too much to do, beyond what it's designed to do. You make it think it has to control everything. That would be as silly as saying that the diving mask should have the job of telling you where to go and what to look at. No, it's just that when you decide where to go and what to look at, the diving mask gives you a clear vision of it. It doesn't have the responsibility of figuring out what you should do and when you should do it. But when you think that your physical mind has those responsibilities, that it has to control everything, every single moment, then it becomes overburdened and it becomes the negative ego that thinks it's more than it needs to be. But the ego is just a device to allow you to experience yourself as a physical being. That's all it is.
And as far as like free will, like a lot of people have very strong feelings about free will.
Yes, well, you do have free will within the limitations of the destiny you chose to be you. So free will is, again, what you exercise in physical reality to determine how you will experience the idea of the free will choice you made from spirit to walk down a certain hallway, and that hallway is you. So you can only be you in this particular form at this particular moment because that's what you chose to be. You are a unique path. So you can exercise your free will to be many things and many styles of approach within that path, but you can't be something other than you. That's your destiny, so to speak.
What about like developing psychic abilities while you're here on Earth?
Yes, well, you all have psychic abilities.
What are some ways that you can develop those so that you have a more expanded experience here on Earth?
You raise your vibration. And how do you raise your vibration in the easiest possible way? You follow the formula that we've given all of you of acting on your passion, because that raises your frequency.
Right.
And when you raise your frequency, you are capable of doing many of the things that start to happen spontaneously as side effects from being on a higher level of vibration. Simple as that.
That is really noticeable, that as you follow your excitement and your vibration increases, you do seem much more psychically connected with people you're close to, and
Yes.
like knowing when the phone's going to ring, or
Yeah.
knowing if somebody's thinking about you, and it just
Yes.
becomes normal.
Exactly. The idea of raising your frequency, I'll put it to you mechanically, kind of pushes your electron aura, your electromagnetic aura, out a little farther, and it has a much more sensitive edge, so that it's more capable of connecting to more rarefied things that are not necessarily yet completely crystallized in physical reality, but you can sense them coming because you've made your antenna more sensitive to receiving things that haven't physicalized fully yet. That's all psychic functioning is. So you have to let your aura expand by raising your frequency and allowing it to become a more sensitive electromagnetic organ that can sense things that haven't yet manifested physically.
It's interesting because that sounds a lot like how animals experience their reality, because
They do.
especially animals that are prey animals,
Yes.
because it's like they hear and see things that we aren't familiar or thinking
Yes,
about.
but they also have a heightened electromagnetic field that allows them to sense things that are coming.
So they literally can feel a lot of times whether or not a predator is coming
Yes.
into their field.
Yes, and so can all of you. Many of you have constantly described the idea of knowing when it feels like somebody's watching you and you turn around and see that somebody in fact is staring at you. You can sense these things just like they can. It's just that more often than not, you don't pay attention to those things or think they're just products of your imagination. You see, the animals don't necessarily have the opportunity to think of those things as their imagination. They just simply sense what is.
Right. Like, is there a way to completely stop other people from doing anything violent to you personally?
Yes, by raising your frequency beyond the level in which you might need to experience those things to learn the lessons. So if you allow yourself to learn your lessons through the idea of positive action, being yourself, and being open to learning the lessons and not defining things that happen in a negative way, then yes, you can learn those things and you can raise yourself above the need to jar yourself into learning the lesson by attracting something that you don't prefer.
That's comforting.
Yes, but again, remember, you can't focus on it in a way that says, oh, well, if I can't do that, something's wrong. You have to accept the way in which you're doing things in order to move on to doing them differently. That's the paradox.
Yeah, because there seems like there's a lot of things involved in raising your frequency that we might not exactly understand at this point, but we can understand that when you're following your excitement and you're in that higher state, you're communicating with your higher mind.
Yes.
And your guidance system will work better and better the more precisely you can do that.
Yes, but again, remember, it's not that you're not communicating with your higher mind before that. It's just that going into a higher vibration makes you more aware of the communication that's already been going on.
So, and clearly from that state, you would never see yourself as being victimized by your higher self or higher levels of your own consciousness.
Of course not.
Yeah.
The higher vibrations don't victimize things.
Right.
Only the lower vibrations feel the need to do that.
Are spirit guides real? Like, are they with you every moment? How does this work with spirit guides?
Well, it's not like they watch you take a shower, if that's what you're asking. Spirit guides are real. Yes, of course they are. And they are there in the moments when you truly need them. But remember, they have their own lives to live, even if they're not physical anymore. So it's not like they have to hang around all the time waiting for you to need them. They will be there instantaneously when you do truly need their guidance. But remember, they're just guiding you. They're not living your life for you. They're not figuring everything out for you. They're just giving you the encouragement and a hint here and there, now and then, to help you move in the direction that is true for you. But yes, you all have them, and sometimes they can even take turns, depending upon what their strengths are and what they're learning.
So really, when it comes down to it, the being or the consciousness that is paying attention to you all the time and cares about you as much as you care about you is your higher self.
The higher self, yes, and of course all that is.
Right. But of course, we
other
don't really...
Other beings have things to do, but they will be there according to their commitment to you in whatever way actually works best for all concerned.
But your higher self is there with you all the time, moment by moment, never leaves you.
Yes, it can't. It can't. It is you.
Right. It's like the other half of your beingness.
Yes.
Your physical, you have your physical beingness, and then you have the higher self, which is
non-physical.
the non-physical aspect of you that's directly connected to your soul.
Yes. Well, it's all connected to your soul.
Right.
The soul is the higher mind and the physical mind, reflecting to itself from different points of view. So you can't really separate those things out. The physical mind and the higher mind are the soul, experiencing itself in this particular way.
Okay, and this person here is asking about past and future life connections, and they say, well, why do you sometimes tell people things like you were in the Black League, but then at other times you tell people that they're a human on Earth and just making connections to other lives?
It's the difference between the experience and the actual mechanism. And we understand that sometimes in our communications we go back and forth. But we have also taught you to learn the difference between those two so that when you hear it say, you were in the Black League, you know that we're actually describing the experience you have created from the mechanism of being here now and just energetically connecting to someone in the Black League. So you have to learn the difference so you can apply those definitions yourself when we go back and forth for ease of conversation.
Okay. And also, why do you call April by the name of her Sasani counterpart, Nania? Is she actually Nania or channeling her during these transmissions?
April is what we would call Nania Viqua. The full name would be the seed of Nania, being a connection in another life that isn't literally my daughter Nania, which isn't her name, it's just a word that means daughter. But again, the idea is the full representation of April would be Nania Viqua, the seed of Nania, a connection to Nania that informs Nania of a certain perspective that Nania can connect to, but Nania, my daughter, is a different being, but can connect to April in a way that allows her information that is necessary for her in the same way April can connect to my daughter to feed her information that is necessary for her journey on Earth. We don't mean this to be confusing.
Okay, thank you. My daughter passed away about 3 years ago. I would like to know how to establish clear and deep communication with her.
Spirits will often attempt to communicate. Anytime you may think of her, anything that reminds you of her can actually be a communication. So you have to pay attention to the synchronicity of how her thoughts come up in your mind, thoughts of her, and allow yourself more openness so that when you think of her, you're not grieving. Because sometimes when people grieve, I'm not saying you shouldn't or can't, but sometimes when time has passed and a thought comes up and you still feel grief and sadness and sorrow, that may simply be because you are applying the definition to them that means you've lost something. Whereas the grief you're feeling may actually be a symbol of the fact that they're attempting to connect to you and get a message to you, but you're experiencing their energy as a loss and therefore experience it as grief instead of being open to the fact that they're actually being communicating something to you. So you have to relax the idea that you feel you've lost them, that they're still here, and that you can open up to a connection and receive information from them. When you feel the idea of grief, know that that may be a communication from them, and don't continue to define that as a loss.
It's your question about star seeds. What would be your definition of a star seed?
A star seed is simply someone who has recognized they have connections to other places and other times, and that the intention behind being aware of those connections allows them to know that they have chosen to be on Earth at this time as the being that they are, to aid and assist with the evolution of the Earth in the most positive way possible. That's a star seed from our perspective. It's not that they come from somewhere else as the being they are on Earth, but they do have connections on higher levels to many other places. It's just that they're using the awareness of those connections to be of assistance in accelerating and aiding and assisting in the evolution of the human being on Earth at this time. That's a starseed.
Are they genetically different from average people?
They can be.
How would they be? Would they be enhanced genetically? Is that the idea?
There are many different ways in which the genetics can reflect their ability to bring energy through from higher levels to be of assistance to the evolution of humanity on Earth.
Okay, so they're not like ordinary people. Is that sort of the idea? Or
define ordinary.
Yeah, that's why it's kind of hard to understand the concept.
As I said, the key is having the awareness of their intention to aid and assist in the evolution of the Earth. The awareness alone makes a difference in what you're calling the difference between someone who allows their genetics to bring through the energy in a particular frequency that is of assistance, and what you're terming an ordinary person who may be unaware of that connection.
I see. And what happens when someone commits suicide?
Well, again, it depends upon what they believed would happen to them on the other side, as you say. But in general, it's about the same as anyone who dies. They may wallow in certain kinds of regrets at first. They may be more of an earthbound spirit at first because they don't even necessarily know what they can experience in spirit. But ultimately, guides on that side will help them realize that they have crossed over. They will go through their life review, learning what choices they made and what might they have made instead, and learn from those ideas. And then they will apply that information and knowledge to whatever it is that they would like to do next that fulfills their soul commitment.
So
There's no punishment.
a lot of times they
There's
have
no
to come
punishment.
back.
That's their choice. They could do it a different way. But again, in realizing the idea of the commitment that they made for a certain intentional lesson, they can decide how to experience that. Many of them do decide to create the experience of reincarnation, to go through it in the quickest way possible, because that is an accelerative way to do that. Many people may decide to remain in spirit and experience it in a different way. It just depends. But they're given the choice.
So when they go through life review, though, they probably also see the consequence of their choice on the other people in their lives. And
Well, they don't just see it. They experience it as if they are those other people, because now they are more firmly connected to those other people, and they feel everything that everyone went through as a consequence of the choice of killing themselves.
But most people will feel regret for having done it if they've done it to escape the...
Yes, they will feel it not exactly as the same kind of regret that you experience in physical reality, but they will have a very strong sensation of the idea that it wasn't necessarily the best choice they could have made. It's the closest thing, perhaps, that you can experience as regret, but it's not exactly the same feeling. It's just an overwhelming understanding that it was a choice made that wasn't necessarily true to your path, to who you really are. And that can be as powerful and maybe even more powerful than the idea you call regret, but it's not exactly the same thing. Because regret in your context implies a judgment of negativity against yourself. This is not a judgment of negativity. It is simply a full realization that you made a choice that was out of alignment with what your original intention was.
And are we able to see and communicate with parallel versions of ourselves? And are there parallel versions of ourselves watching us?
Yes and yes. You're already connecting to parallel versions of yourselves, even to create the experience you call time. You think that you live in one straight linear reality, but you don't. What you call one timeline is actually composed of many different timelines. So you're in constant communication with alternate realities and choosing from among them to create what you experience as one linear timeline or reality. And sometimes versions of yourself or other beings in parallel realities do have evolved to the point where they can be aware more consciously of other parallel versions of themselves or other beings in other parallel realities. So yes, some may be watching, but some may not.
So just in closing, it seems like the most important thing we can do is to embrace our experience here in physical reality and to use it as a learning tool to be able to make good choices that will be supportive of us and of others.
Yes.
And to not try and run away from the negativity, but rather to transform it into a positive expression.
Yes, that doesn't mean that you start calling things you recognize as negative as if they're positive unto themselves. You can still have the discernment to tell the difference between something that was created out of negativity and something that is created from positive energy. I'm simply saying that you can transform your experience of that for yourself into something positive by defining that there must have been a reason to experience that negative thing in your life that could serve you if you stay in a positive state.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to final thoughts about being here on Earth and how to really have a wonderful heaven on Earth experience?
My thoughts will never be final. We will always have something to say to be of assistance in helping to guide you into the understanding that you have all the power. You chose to be where you are. That's why you are in physical reality. You knew it would serve you in some way, shape, or form. So we would always encourage you to look for the definitions for anything that happens, to be the definitions that would be the ones that would allow you to experience the service in a positive way, instead of simply falling victim to the idea that just because this is happening, something is bad, that something is wrong, that it doesn't belong in your life. If it's there for a reason. Own it, take responsibility for it, and you will be able to transform it in wondrous and magical ways that will allow you to experience a life of beautiful joy. So we will now encourage you to explore with us the upcoming exercise and meditation.
Thank you, Bashar. We love you very much.
Our unconditional love to you all, and allow yourselves now to move forward.
Say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? Once again, we take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for allowing this transmission to occur in this manner and on this day of your time. Once again, each and every time, your civilization allows for this transmission to occur, this kind of connection to be formed. It affords our civilization and many other civilizations an opportunity to experience, through this linkage, more facets, more perspectives of the universe through each and every one of your perspectives, and this expands our understanding of all the different ways that creation can manifest itself. And so we thank you for this gift. We would like to begin this transmission, this day of your time, with the following idea that we will call the end of times, the in-between time, and the beginning of times. It is a long title, I know, but make the best of it. We would like to extend to you now, in this concept, that we are perceiving, from our point of view, with our senses, that there is a template grinding into position like a large, slowly turning gear, but that this template is almost in position The balls have almost fallen into all the slots. All the setups of your collective consciousness are almost in place to allow there to be the opening of the floodgates of information, the continued acceleration of happenstance, the continued revelation of everyone's position, where they stand, what they stand for, who they are, who they hold themselves to be, in your present year, in your next year, and the year after that. The last times prior to your demarcation year of what you call your 2001, in these last moments, as this template moves into its final position and all things fall into place, there will be an acceleration of revelation of information as many things become more clear, and as it becomes less and less possible for ideas and information to be withheld and kept secret. Now then will be the time that each and every one of you must, if you are willing, take firm grasp, firm hold of your idea, of yourself, your identity, of your ideal of who and what you are, and pay attention to your own estimation of how much in alignment or not you are to your ideal self. For in these last few moments, as the template grinds into position, into final position, before the beginning of times, in this middle time, this brief middle time of the next 2.5 of your orbits, 2.5 of your years, this will be all the time allowed, in a sense, by your collective consciousness for all the components, that is, each and every one of you, components of the collective, all the time you have allowed yourselves to come to terms, to come to understanding, not in the sense of ultimate completion in this life, but in the sense of knowing, in the sense of choosing, in the sense of determining, in the sense of making a decision about who you are, moving forward with that in all the ways that you can with regard to your behavior and your actions. For as the template grinds into position, it will not leave many cracks to slip through. In fact, it will leave none. And if you do not find yourself, and we do not say this to be alarmist, but if you do not find yourself in total surrender of who you are, in letting go and being who you are created to be, within this next 2.5 years, you may find a great deal of difficulty finding any crack to slip through, any opening in the doorway to cross to the other side over the threshold. Now is the last moment of limbo that you have. Now is the last moment of neutrality that you have to make up your mind as to who you are and to behave as such, to act as such, to make a commitment as such to yourself, and to realize finally and more fully that there is no difference between what you call your true will and that which you term the will of God. That when you become your true self, what you have called the will of God and your own true will be synonymous, one and the same. No conflict, no contradiction, no dichotomy, but the awakening to the recognition that you are all aspects of the infinite, and the experience of that recognition will begin to fully bloom and take its place in your society in a practical, effective, experiential way. Please remember that all this talk about the template grinding into position, all this talk about this limbo time, this neutral time, all this talk about the end of times, the end of a cycle, and the beginning of times, the beginning of a new cycle, these are not mere metaphors. This is a description of energy and consciousness in motion, seeking and finding its place, and becoming anchored steadfastly into its new slot, its new formation, its new momentum, its new acceleration, and allowing yourself to know your place within it, to find your place within it, so that you will know you fit, so that you will know you belong, so that you will be able to experience the effortless belonging rather than the struggle you have experienced for generations. Now, in what you call your new timing, in the new revelations of information, if you wish to term it your new millennia, then will be seen in short order the time, space, reality, illusion for what it is. And if you then will allow yourself to know more concretely, more fully, more quickly, to know who you are, what you are, make a determination, and live according to that, then when the time, space, illusion begins to break down and fade away, you will then be capable of being left with that which is the only thing that exists, and that is yourself, your true, core, natural self. And that will be enough. Because you will see and you will begin to experience that that has always been what has filled your entire reality, and all the illusion of the vastness of space and time has always been filled by you, yourself, your idea of yourself, your belief of yourself, your notion of yourself, your notion of reality. Time to bring the notion back home, inside, within, instead of out there. Time, in many ways, to break the mirror and let the glass shatter and fall away, so that any and all reflections will be inner reflections, will be inner knowingness, will be insight into yourself, so that any and all experiences will add to the knowledge of who and what you are, and will no longer be projected outward onto others, projected outward onto outer reality, which keeps it separate from yourself. All experience is happening within you. There is no outside, except as you create there to seem to be. Now is the time, this limbo time, for you to come to terms with the idea that there is no outside, that it all takes place inside you, within your consciousness, within one point, here and now, the eternal creative moment. Because that's all there is, all there ever has been, and all there ever will be. And this will be the awakening of the Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature, the Krishna spirit, whatever you wish to term it. For that will be the time when names do not matter, but the experience of yourself will be the only thing that matters. And as we have said, the experience of yourself will be seen and felt to be synonymous with the experience of the One, in all the ways that that can manifest in purer form, with more open eyes, more awareness in consciousness, and less illusion, and less filters. For these no longer serve you. For it is past time, and it is time to put away those toys. We thank you now for allowing us to share this perspective with you, and we remind you that as we shared these ideas, not only were your ears paying attention, but all the cells of your body were letting the information in on different levels, and it is within you, and always has been. And now is the time to allow it to wake up and become lucid in your own dream of life. Become not just the idea of lucid dreamers, but lucid livers.
What about the people like our family that are not trying to get in touch with who they are? What's going to happen with the people that are less aware?
Everyone and every being will always be on their own path and will ultimately determine for themselves when and where they shall recognize who and what they are and their relationship to the infinite. To ask what is going to happen is really an open-ended question, for time is infinite, beings are infinite and eternal, and you need not worry that an individual in any given lifetime may or may not see this or that or know themselves, for it is always offered unto everyone within creation the opportunity to know the self at any time of choosing. Let go of your worry. Let go of your attachment to that question. It doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve them. For it only compounds separation when you ask it. Move forward. Cherry.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I'm very excited to be here.
As are we to interact with you.
And before we begin, I would first like to extend my deepest appreciation for allowing us to interact with ourselves
Absolutely.
through you as a permission slip.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
Throughout my physical life here, I had the exciting opportunity to experience deep and severe levels of negativity, suffering, depression, and pretty much everything in that category.
How exciting.
Indeed.
How brave and bold of you.
Thank you, I guess.
I know. Because you can use this now to your advantage. Remember, unless you haven't heard it before, what we call the rubber band analogy?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Therefore, you understand, the farther you pull the band back into darkness, when you finally let go, it'll give you that much more momentum to fly that much faster into the light. So you were bold and strong enough to pull that band very far back. That means you have a lot of potential energy built up to go flying into the light. So that was bold of you.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it seems I'm still stretching backwards.
Do you want to let go?
Yes, and that's why I'm here.
And what it is in your belief system that stops you from letting go. What are you afraid will happen if you do let go and fly into the light and be the self you prefer to be? Yes?
I don't think I'm afraid. I just think I'm not able to identify a specific belief system that I have.
All right, well, one moment. We use the term afraid, but this is what we mean by it. Do you remember us talking about the motivational mechanism and how that works? Would you like a recap?
Yes, please.
You all have a motivational mechanism. It works like this. It works all the time, immediately, without fail. There are no exceptions to this. You always choose in the direction of what you believe benefits you. Always, without fail. What you believe benefits you more than the alternative. You always move away from what you believe does not benefit you. So, what that tells you, if you understand that mechanism and how it works, is that if you are not letting go and moving in the direction you would prefer to, that can only mean you have a belief attached to staying where you are that makes staying where you are appear more beneficial than where it is you prefer to go. You need to find out what that belief is. And that usually translates as if you do let go, you're afraid that something will happen that you don't prefer to have happen. That's what we mean by being afraid. You are projecting, or the negative belief is convincing you that if you do let go and become who you prefer to be, that something worse and less beneficial will happen than simply remaining where you are. Does that make sense as a mechanism to you?
It does make sense, yes.
So you need to figure out what the belief could possibly be that would make staying where you are more beneficial or seem to be more beneficial than where it is you prefer to be. Do you have any clue as to what that might be?
Well, I have sharing, if I may,
Yes.
with an experience like that.
Yes.
So I went back and I analyzed most of my negative experiences that I had, and I realized that most of the times, if not always, they were self-inflicted.
All right, and? Because?
And then I went and I asked, why is that? And then I found the reason.
And that was?
The main reason for me is that I find myself attracted and passionate about the idea of falling in love with the wrong person 99% of the time.
Because?
Well, I don't know. That's what
Because you don't deserve anything better?
Yeah, I think so.
So this is an issue of self-worth.
Well, if you ask me now, I feel like I deserve, but then I think it's something more deep inside that.
I know
overrides
that you empirically know you do, but if you believe that you are not worthy of it, that is going to take precedence. That's exactly what I just described as the motivational mechanism. If the belief that you're unworthy is stronger than the belief that you deserve it, you will deprive yourself of what you deserve because that belief is stronger.
How do I shift the belief?
Well, find out why that belief would be stronger. Why does it seem safer, I'll use that term, to deny yourself what you deserve? Are you concerned that if you allow yourself to attract what you deserve, that something will go wrong with that? Or it won't be what you thought it would be?
Maybe.
Maybe. All right. Well, you have to be honest within yourself about these things. So, if you did allow yourself to attract what you deserve, what you know you do deserve, just by your existence, what do you imagine might go wrong?
I think it would be maybe too much of positive
Too
energy.
much positive energy.
Yeah, probably.
What would too much positive energy do to you?
I'm not
Rachel?
sure. I haven't experienced it yet.
Yet you have an idea that it is something to avoid. So whether you have experienced it or not, you obviously have a belief about it that isn't benefiting you and prevents you from moving toward it. So what do you imagine too much positive energy might do? Blow the top of your head off or something?
Something like that, yeah.
So you're saying you can't handle that much positive energy?
I'm sure I can.
Are you?
At least empirically, as you said.
Well, but do you know it in your bones as true? Or is it just an intellectual concept for you?
It's just a concept.
Why isn't it in your bones? Why don't you know it to be true that you can handle it? I'll give you a hint, unless you can figure it out.
Please, go ahead.
All right. You have to look to your definitions of what it means to have positive energy, because you are creating a definition wherein having positive energy could possibly have something go against the positive energy, and that's not a definition of positive energy. You have a different definition. So you have to clarify and clean up your definition of what it is that's capable of happening when you create a positive state of being. Many people on your planet say exactly what you're saying. I would create a positive state of being, but I'm afraid that if I do, something negative will happen. That's not a definition of a positive state of being. Nothing negative can happen in a positive state of being. Even if it looks like it's negative, even if somebody else defines it as negative, you will know that by staying in a positive state of being, you can only extract a beneficial and positive effect from it, no matter how it was created, no matter how it looks, no matter what anyone tells you about it. You know that by staying in a positive state of being, you cannot be affected negatively. That's what you have to know is the definition of being in a positive state. Any other definition is not a definition of a positive state. So you have to be clear about how you're defining the concept of what's possible in a positive state. Yes?
Yes, and this is where intuition comes into place, and most of the times, actually, it never failed me.
Intuition can, but this is really just about knowledge. It's about knowing how things work. It's about understanding this literally almost from a physics point of view. You cannot experience what you're not the vibration of. It's simply not possible to experience something that you are not operating on the same wavelength as.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there were cases when I felt extremely excited and positive, and
Yes.
and everything was wonderful, and then the outcome was completely different.
That's because you are equating the idea of that outcome to being in the positive state, and that's not the case. I understand that physical reality and continuity can make it seem as if that was the outcome of the positive, excited state, but it wasn't. If you have an outcome that is actually truly negative, now I'm talking about something different than what you expect, because just because something unexpected happens doesn't mean it's negative. If you're labeling it as negative because you didn't get what you expected, that's the definition you need to change. But the idea is that if you do experience something negative after having been in a positive state, that negativity is not the result of the positive state. That negativity is the result of you leaving the positive state. And that means you applied a negative definition to what happened instead of a positive one. You can recognize that something that manifests may not be what you expected, may not even be what you prefer. But that's a neutral observation and does not insist that you have to define it in a negative way. You have to know that whatever happens in your life, whatever pops up, no matter how it looks, must be there for a positive reason. And if you stay in that frame of mind, you will be able to use even what you don't prefer in a way that you do prefer. That's how you use the negative positively. And then when you use it in a positive way, it will usually go away because you've used it up. There's no reason for it to hang around because you were willing to validate it as having a reason to be there that serves you, instead of assuming that just because something unexpected happened, something went wrong. That definition is what causes you to experience that something went wrong. The thing in and of itself doesn't have built-in negative meaning. Nothing has built-in meaning. You give it the meaning. Now, you may give it that meaning unconsciously and then see the negative result from the negative belief you applied to it so quickly you didn't even know you were doing it. But that's why it's so important to become aware of your definitions so that they don't catch you off guard by making it seem as if, well, that just happened out there. That's just because that's built into that situation. No, it never is. It's always coming from you. And therefore, you have a feedback mechanism that lets you know how to course correct and realign yourself and say, wait a minute. I don't have to automatically assume that just because I got something I didn't expect that that's a negative thing. Let me see how I can define this in a positive way that serves me. Catch yourself, stop yourself, find the definition that gave it the negative experience, that attached the negative experience to it, and let go of that definition and replace it with a more positive one so you can get a beneficial effect out of whatever happens. Because as we have said, and we'll say again now, it doesn't matter what happens. It only matters what you do with what happens. That's what makes the difference. Is this helping?
It is, and I have tried just that, but it feels like...
No, you haven't. Because if you say, I've tried it, you're saying that you still had an assumption and an insistence and an expectation of what the result was supposed to be. You don't know what the result needs to be until it shows up. And that's what shows you what it needed to be. So you have to let go of any insistence on what you think it's supposed to be. Do you understand?
Yes, it feels like the body sometimes just takes over the mind.
That is an excuse. And it comes from a negative belief because that's not true. You're buying into something as if it's a fact. Just because you feel it doesn't mean it's a fact. The fact that you feel like the body sometimes takes over is one of the tools the negative belief uses to convince you you don't have the power to change. You have to see through the lie, the smoke and mirrors of the tools the negative belief uses. It's not doing it maliciously, that's just how it's built. But you have to know that that's not true. In other words, when you hear yourself saying, or hear yourself even thinking, sometimes the body just takes over and I can't do anything about it, that's exactly, perfectly, and precisely the moment to stop yourself and go, wait a minute, that's not a fact. It's an opinion, it's a belief, it's a perspective, and I don't have to buy that as true. But negative beliefs will make themselves appear to be facts, appear to be true. You have to catch them in the moment and say, tricky little belief. I heard that coming out of my mouth, I heard that going through my head, and I almost fell for that, but I caught myself. So thank you for allowing me the practice to have more discernment over what really is and isn't a fact. Is this helping?
A lot.
All right.
Another layer of this
Yes.
experience is the fact that I've
Is
not...
the fact that?
Well, it's the...
Is the belief that?
belief. Well,
It's a fact that you can have a belief, if that's what you're saying.
Okay. It's a belief that during my experience here, there seems to be a particular female template that helps me experience this negative cycle that we just talked about. And
all right. But if it helps you experience that, it must be doing it for a positive reason, yes?
But why that specific physical template?
You must need that template to teach you something about yourself.
I learned that I'm tired of this.
Maybe that's the lesson.
I was tired a long time ago.
Obviously not tired enough.
Yeah, I'm...
When you are really sick and tired of being sick and tired, you will stop choosing to be sick and tired. Obviously, if it keeps happening, you're not tired enough. So keep doing it until you're really tired enough of it. Then you'll let it go. You'll realize that you don't need to keep doing it. Because you can only be doing it because you believe it serves you. Remember motivational mechanism?
Yes.
You can only experience what you believe serves you. So you must not be tired enough of it yet to let it go. And that's okay.
So there's no other reason that there will be that specific repetitive physical template. It's just an excuse, a permission slip for me to feel miserable.
Yep.
And it's working great. Is there a way I can slow down my aging process? There was somebody who...
By living in the moment. And you know how you live in the moment? You follow your passion to the best you can with no insistence or assumption as to what the outcome is supposed to be. That's how you accelerate your vibration, and by contrast, accelerating your vibration allows you to slow down and live in the moment. And that's how you become ageless.
Slowing down the molecular level of the aging process through meditation.
Living in the moment. Because you know how when you're acting on your passion, it seems like time passes in a flash?
Yes.
You've had that experience?
Yes.
So if you are doing something you love to do and you're in that state of being and it appears like or feels like maybe 15 minutes has passed, then you look up and reconnect with the world and oh, it's been 2 hours or 3 hours. What you feel was the time that passed, the 15 minutes, is all you've actually aged. Even though you might reconnect with the world 3 hours later and catch up to the consensus reality of time, if you only experienced 15 minutes in that experience of joy, you have actually only aged 15 minutes. That's how you become ageless. You collapse time. You live in the moment. You don't experience as much time because you're not focusing on so many details that you need more time to focus on them. You're acting holistically. You're living more in the now, which is timeless.
But there's so many passionate people who age just like everybody else.
And that's okay. Just look at how they age, though. I'm not saying you won't mature. Even we mature, but we are not infirm. We are not diseased. We are still energetic. And many of you are too, no matter how old you are. You're getting more and more examples on your planet of people that are over 100 who can probably outdo you. So the idea is to understand that that's possible, understand it's becoming even more probable, and allow yourself not to focus on that needing to be the outcome, but just focus on living in the moment and let yourself age and mature naturally for you. Because there is still a reason for that to happen in your society to a certain degree. Now, that will become less and less and less necessary over time. And for some individuals, it may not be necessary at all at any age, in any time frame, in any era. But the idea is that if it does happen while you're living in the moment, then there's a reason for it to happen that serves you. So stop having the insistence that something shouldn't be happening. Just use what's happening in the most positive way you can. That's the point of this conversation. Yes?
Yes.
Does that help you?
A lot.
All right.
And one last thing.
Yes.
I feel like I'm absolutely ready to meet you in physical form.
You are not.
What happens if we do?
You will blow up.
And what happens if I'm okay with that?
Well, then, what purpose does that serve?
Well,
What
I guess we'll
purpose
find out.
does that serve? Tell me what purpose it serves.
What if we try in a lucid dream? Would that be...
In a lucid dream is fine.
So can we meet
Because
there?
that's a different dimensional vibration. And there is, shall we say, less probability that our higher vibration won't overwhelm your vibration and force to the surface the things that you may not be ready to integrate within your psyche yet. This conversation between us has happened because you're still working on yourself. Yes?
Yes.
You're still holding on to certain vibrations that are wholly incompatible with the vibrational frequency on which we operate. We operate 10 times faster than you. It would burn you out. Therefore, the idea of incorporating this information is what allows you to accelerate yourself and become more vibrationally compatible. But the idea of being in another dimension, in what you call the lucid dream, that acts as a buffer. It's another reality that allows us to be more vibrationally compatible without negative effect to you in terms of your physical journey. And obviously, you are still on your physical journey and still exploring the idea of belief systems within you that don't serve you. And therefore, it would not really serve you for us to interact in your physical reality at this time. Please understand, we've done this before. We know what we're talking about. And we will do nothing that in any way, shape, or form, from our perspective, in our experience, would bring any degree of harm to you. So we cannot do that yet. But there will be potentially a time in which that could happen. The more you live in the moment, the more you accelerate your vibration, the more you become vibrationally compatible with us. And so in time, in perfect timing, then something like that could happen. You need to increase the probability by being more of yourself first. That's the process. That's contact. But you're having contact right now anyway. So the idea of physical contact with us can't be made to seem better than the kind of contact we're having right now. This is how it works. And you have to simply trust that we know what we're doing. All right?
I trust you. Thank you.
Our unconditional love to you. Pleasant dreams.